So you've heard about global warming, right? So we have the Earth that is surrounded by our atmosphere layer, which protects us from damaging ultraviolet radiation projected from the sun, and at the same time allows the penetration of just enough energy to support life. So with global warming, through the burning of fossil fuels, we've released great amounts of CO2 emissions along with other gases into our atmosphere, also known as greenhouse gases. What happens is the sun emits rays of energy towards Earth. They are absorbed into our planet, but the Earth is only capable of absorbing so much. The energy that is not absorbed is pushed back out of the Earth's atmosphere back into space. But now that we have such an immense buildup of greenhouse gases within our atmosphere, they are blocking this excess energy from being released back into space. This in turn is causing a great amount of climate change, making the Earth warmer than usual. 19% of the energy is absorbed into the atmosphere, 3% of which is clouds, while the other 16% is in aerosols and gases. 51% of the energy is absorbed into land and water, 30% is reflected back into space, 6% of which is absorbed into the atmosphere. 20% into the clouds, 9% into land and water. 70% of this energy is re-radiated as long-wave radiation. So here's what's happening. We have these tropical glaciers located along the Cordillera Blanca, the Andes Mountains in Peru. Now let's take a side step. When comparing Peru's CO2 emissions with China and the United States, there's a pretty large difference. China ranks as the world's #1 largest national source of fossil fuel-related CO2 emissions, with the United States ranking #2 behind it, while Peru is ranked all the way down at number 68 out of 178 countries worldwide. How fair is it that we're more responsible for climate change, yet we're not suffering greater consequences than other countries throughout the world? Now let's go back. Over the past 10 years specifically, there has been a noticeable increase in the rate at which these glaciers are receding or melting. The repercussions of this may not seem so serious now, but what future generations have to look forward to is great. So I bet you're already asking, so what? So let's jump over to the United States really quick. On average in the United States, we use 176 gallons of water per day per person. That's 3.9 trillion gallons of water used per month in our country. Now imagine this. What if you had to walk between 2 to 8 hours per day to get the water you needed to survive? Now answer these questions. Do you think you'd use this much water? Do you know where your water comes from? Do you ever worry about running out of water? Whether yes or no, why? So let's jump back to Peru now. Peru has a population of approximately 30 million people compared to the approximate 314 million people in the United States. That's only approximately 10.5% of our country's population, yet we have a much easier time accessing not only water itself, but clean water as well. The Peruvian people have to work much harder for water that wouldn't be deemed safe to drink for an American tourist visiting the country. Shall we get to the point already? So we have this occurrence called peak water. What's happening is that during the winter months, due to climate change, these tropical glaciers aren't accumulating as much snowpack as they used to. During the dry season or summer months, when there's practically zero precipitation, these glaciers melt and flow down into the Rio Santa River Valley, where the Peruvian people depend for their source of water. Well, due to the climate change as well, there has been a great increase in meltwater. It all makes sense, right? Warmer weather means less snow and more ice melting. As our planet continues to keep warming, this occurrence of glacial melting will continue. What's going to happen is that eventually these glaciers are going to recede to the point where they will discontinue giving off meltwater. Currently, this increase in meltwater is producing plenty of water for the Peruvian people to survive. It's actually causing flooding downriver due to the amount of excess water being given off. It's predicted, though, that over the next 50 years, water is going to become scarce for the Peruvian people. Here's some statistics for you. 70% of the Santa River's annual flow comes from these tropical glaciers. 80% of this river water gets drawn out for irrigation. As the river levels decrease, this is not only going to create a water shortage for the Peruvian people, but for the native plants and animals as well. These people don't have 30, 20, or even 10 years to figure out what they are going to do about this problem they have no control over. They need to act now. I bet you're wondering, why should I care? Think about your own country. Where do you see effects of global warming where you're from? What are you willing to do to cut down on your own energy consumption? So let's recap what we've learned. Global warming. Sun rays in, extra push back into space, greenhouse gases clogging up our atmosphere, blocking excess energy from being released. Earth is warming up. Peruvian tropical glaciers are melting too much. Not enough snow in the winter, extra hot in the summer. Eventually there will be no more snowpack left to melt. This will cause the Rio Santa River to begin to dry up. This will not only make water scarce for the Peruvian people, but also for the native plants and animals. This is a big problem. Where do you see this happening in your own country? What are you willing to do to cut down on your energy consumption?